Limits at infinity, tips and tricks. So these are prerequisite skills that you might have learned, but also might not have seen used this way. And they're skills that are really helpful as we evaluate limits at infinity in just a couple videos. Trick number 1. If you have x to the m times the quantity a plus b to the m, that will be equal to ax plus bx to the m. So this means if you have a term raised to the mth power, and you have an expression raised to the mth power, you can distribute this first term, or sometimes it's also an expression, to each term of the expression in the parentheses. It's really important that the powers must be the same. It won't work if you have something like 5 times the quantity x plus 3 squared. This 5 isn't squared, so we can't distribute it. So let's look at this. We have r squared times the quantity 2s minus 3t squared. Both the r and the expression are squared, so we can distribute the r to each term in the expression. So this will be equal to 2rs minus 3rt squared. Then let's look at this next one. We have 25 times the quantity x plus 3 squared. Well, this 25 isn't squared, but we could rewrite the 25 as something that is squared. So that 25 is the same as 5 squared. So we have 5 squared times x plus 3 squared. Now the exponents match, so we can distribute that 5. And we have quantity 5x plus 3 all squared. Number 3, we have x to the 4th power times x plus 3 squared. X is to the 4th power, but x plus 3 is to the 2nd power. So again, that's not quite going to work. We have different exponents. But we can rewrite that x to the 4th power as something squared. X to the 4th power is x squared squared. So we have x squared squared times the quantity x plus 3, which is squared. Now our exponents match, and we can distribute the x squared. So we have x cubed plus 3x squared all squared. Trick number 2 is to rewrite expressions as radical expressions. So that means if we have x, we want to rewrite this x as the square root of something. X is the square root of x squared. And if we have 1 over x, 1 over x is the square root of 1 over x squared. X squared is the square root of x to the 4th power. X cubed is the square root of x to the 6th power. And x to the 4th power is the square root of x to the 8th power. I think usually you've probably seen going from the square root of x squared to x, but you can also go from x to the square root of x squared. Trick number 3, the nth root of x times the nth root of a plus b is equal to the nth root of ax plus bx. So if our roots match, we can distribute the x to each term in the other expression. This is really similar to that other property where if we have x to the m times a plus b also to the m, that'll be equal to ax plus bx to the m, which makes sense because radical expressions can be rewritten as exponential expressions with rational exponents. So these types of expressions are very related to each other. So let's look at this first one. We have the square root of x times the square root of x plus 2. So that'll be equal to the square root of x squared plus 2x. For 2, we'll have to use that ability to rewrite expressions as radical expressions. So right now we just have an x, but this is the square root of x plus 2. So we need to rewrite x as the square root of something. X is the square root of x squared. So we have the square root of x squared times the square root of x plus 2. Now we have the same radical. So this will be equal to the square root of x cubed plus 2x squared. Here we have 1 over x times the square root of x plus 2. 1 over x will need to be rewritten as a radical expression, so that'll be the square root of 1 over x squared times the square root of x plus 2. And now we can multiply that 1 over x squared in, so we have the square root of x over x squared plus 2 over x squared, which will simplify a little bit to 1 over x plus 2 over x squared. Last but not least, we have x squared times the square root of 5 plus 2x plus x to the 4th power. So we'll rewrite this so that x squared is the square root of x to the 4th power. And we'll multiply by 5 plus 2x plus x to the 4th power. So this is equal to the square root of 5x to the 4th power plus 2x to the 5th power plus x to the 8th power.